Okay, it's a minute after 4, so we'll go ahead and call the select board meeting to order. If you could, please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Could I request that you move me up? I have a whopper of a cold and I'm not sure how long I'm gonna make it. So if you could move me up, I would dearly appreciate it.
General safety, general public safety is F. Go ahead.
Ever on the budget meeting.
Yeah.
Call the budget committee to order.
So any other adjustments requested? So we'll do F first. Public comment from anybody, and I don't see any public here.
Right today.
So I'll be quiet for a minute. And you've already called yours to order?
Approval of the minutes. Which ones are we approving?
I think we can do the 9th. Everybody got the amended version. So.
For Mondays?
Yes. So, any comments, any further thinking?
I just got a chance to look at them and
Oh,
that's okay. They're fine, other than I didn't say we were gonna pave Griffin Road, I said it's needed paving. That's not in the budget. Westbrook is, sorry that's last minute. That's a minor
So.
change, a major expense.
Okay, Grierson. I will change that.
And Westbrook has a T if you're going there for,
Westbrook is planned.
That's the plan, and then it's his budget pass.
but it has a T, it's misspelled.
It's misspelled.
It has a what?
W-E-S-T, Westbrook.
Oh, Westbrook. I'm sorry, I was trying to find the T in Grierson.
Oh,
Okay, yes, it does.
while you're there, otherwise I was good.
No. Thank you.
Any other changes? So move motion to accept the minutes of April 9th as amended.
Somebody.
All in favor? Thanks, Sandra.
Hey, hold on. On the April 10th, I think the gaps I have, I'm gonna have to check with Amy, so I haven't caught up with her yet. But I would like to ask about ambulance service. The salaries. The children's budget are the totals. So she's saying that the grant is gonna increase in salaries. When we get to the reserve, we talk about what the grant money, we put the grant money in, so it doesn't feel like we're doing the same thing on both sides. Am I making sense? She's getting grants and she's using them in part to fund the reserve and in part to enhance salaries.
Yeah.
But the funding reserve part, we put into the budget.
You recommend it.
We
Well, a
recommended
recommendation,
$50,000.
We recommend, but there's no recommendation on the salary side.
We approved the budget. We did
approve
preliminary approval of the budget that has those wages and
approval
salaries in it.
of the COLAs, but not
No.
it,
We approved the budget. We approved the wages and salaries that are in that
Where
budget.
are they?
The wages
They're
are,
baked into.
They're
those
baked
numbers in
into
budget.
the wage and salary.
yeah, look,
You can see the increases.
yeah, look at the wages.
I thought I didn't see enough increase, but if you think it's there, okay, then I'm not worried about that. So the only other thing I need to do is, unless somebody knows who was accompanying Amy.
That was David Alwell, who's also the assistant director of the.
Okay,
Oh.
Are you
Ryan.
no,
Ryan Colson,
Brian,
Ryan,
Ar-
Ryan, R-Y,
Brian,
Colson, C-O-L-S-O-N.
okay, that was the ambulance person, right?
I have that right, don't I?
Yes.
The only other person I saw with David was Gerald Hartula, that was
Right.
it, fire. Okay, I can now send out tomorrow the revised thing that you can all see see how it reads. Yes,
Let's,
if you want,
clarify for her benefit.
Right.
The grant plus the COLA funded an increase above COLA to bring the various firefighters up to relative competitive parity with the other towns.
Ambulance.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
so it's the salary wage, right? It's the wage, it's not the salary line thing.
Yeah, salary line
Right, the
stay.
hourly rate.
All right. Got it. Okay.
And while we're on that, were you looking for a name for the grant?
Oh, the grant.
Oh, I got it. You got it, okay.
Yeah.
Cause it was something
Yeah.
that was in.
Yes. Well, or I could just tell you right now, the changes that I'm gonna make, and you can approve it now,
Okay,
all right? So the blank line under ambulance service will be Ryan Colson. The source will be the main EMS stabilization grant. That bracketed question disappears. And John, you had said FMV when you were talking about insuring fire trucks, but I think you meant full replacement value. So that's what I wrote.
Yes,
Okay,
actually, yes, but I think they call it actual replacement value, don't they?
I think so, yeah.
But full replacement value.
replacement is the
Yes,
important
as
part.
opposed to getting
Yeah.
what his book value
Yeah,
would be, which
absolutely.
would be
Okay,
next to
and,
nothing.
and yes, it is, the 19,000 bid for the alarm system was Seacoast.
Yes.
So those are the changes I will make.
so ended minutes of April 10th.
You've got my email today with my vision?
It did, and, I don't have it, it's online, but I didn't agree.
You didn't agree, okay.
Do you wanna wait and?
No, I mean, no. Did anybody else see them?
I did, but I don't remember what you said.
So let's just talk about the 2 points. So the first one was, you had said that they have to reapply for the grant. To
That's
get the
what
next,
Amy had said.
to get the next cash. I didn't think that was true. I thought they got the full grant, it was just coming in 2 checks.
Yes.
I don't think they have to reapply.
No,
They have to
For the next
resubmit.
year.
They do have
They
to
have to do
resubmit.
something, they have to take some action
She did say
to
something.
get
about
them
that.
to.
Okay.
Because she has to revalidate her reason for getting the money.
Yeah.
She's already validated the first tranche. She has not validated the second tranche yet, because they haven't called for the validation.
Okay. But,
So
and
it's a
then,
hoop she can't even jump through totally.
Right.
okay, so then I retract that, and then the second one was, for some reason, when I had said the words like, oh, so you're giving a down payment of 400 or 500,000 on the truck. And
Oh,
financing the rest, everywhere's like, there's not a down payment.
Well,
I don't know why.
well, down payment is you give them 10% upfront to hold it. We're gonna pay them all of it at once.
Right.
Part of it will come from what we already have in reserves, and part of it will come from what we finance. So it'll be one check at the same time. We're paying for the whole thing up front.
Right.
We're not doing a down payment, but we're
So
paying.
you had mentioned down payment in your notes, so I just wanted to.
I didn't, so, I mean, what I intended to say is we will pay all at once and part will come from reserve and part will come from a loan.
I saw the words.
Yeah.
That's all.
I agree. My point was, I didn't want the townspeople to think we were handing a $424,000 check to a company before we had a truck.
Oh, yeah, no.
It
That was
says
my
the
point.
reserve will pay for
Right.
about half and the town will borrow the rest.
The price for the 2 new trucks on order is.
$850,000.
The reserve will pay about half and the town will borrow the rest. Adding 60,000 will add a larger down payment and smaller debt. But it's not down payment, I mean, it's, we will borrow and therefore we will have debt.
Yeah, but she's subjected to the word.
The word down
I didn't say down.
But you just read it.
Red down.
Down payment.
Eight,
The 60,000.
where you said adding 60K will allow a larger
Oh,
down
that's
payment.
it, a larger payment is all I need to say.
Yeah.
Got it, I went right past that 3 times. Okay. Yes,
Although having said that, didn't we make a small down payment? We didn't at all.
I think, didn't we have to give them something?
I thought we had to give them something back when we placed the order. Or maybe that would have been if we had gone with the lease purchase. If we went with the lease purchase, we had to put, yes, okay, thank you. I don't remember all this.
That was only 24 hours ago.
No,
No, that was months ago.
There's a motion on the table to approve the minutes as they've been amended.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? You still with us, Betty?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, fire away.
Okay,
General public safety, page 31.
all right, my budget remains simple. I mean, I have saved the town, lots and lots of money because I just don't increase my budget. And I get most of the supplies for free. So I'm gonna keep it like that. But what I do want to discuss, I want to discuss the emergency disaster reserve account.
Okay,
Now,
we're gonna get
I'm-
to that now. Betty, we're gonna
That
approve
what?
we're gonna approve or recommend that we're gonna cover your budget first. And then we go to the reserve. Separate-
Okay.
Separate item. So illuminate us on the budget.
Well, it's basically for supplies and if I have to open up the shelter, it's for shelter supplies. I recently had to replace a battery for the AED at the Sprucehead Community Church. And probably in the future, we'll have to do the same thing to the Gilbert Butler shelter. And they run about $250. Other than that, I can keep the costs way down because I get most, like I said, I get most of my shelter supplies by donations. So, and I have gone out of my way to keep it, down throughout the years. So, I think sticking to the, $900 for the, supplies, I think, is a good idea. So that's my peppy spiel.
Okay, questions? ACO and, E911, those are straightforward. They're not part of Betty's purview, right?
Correct.
No.
Right, okay.
dispatching,
Dispatch fee is way up.
and that's a ball that's still in the air, is it not, Jeff?
No,
Huh?
no.
Well, I heard Rockland's not gonna do it now, and.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with that.
Well, it could be for that
Yeah.
dispatching, right?
Yeah, the reason Rockland's not gonna do it is because they were premature in saying that they were gonna do it.
but the county's doing it.
But
And
is the 63,000, I mean, given all the turmoil that's going on there, is that that's not necessarily as solid a number as years past, is it? I mean, there still could
it is
be-
for us. The county has already set their budget and has already transmitted it to us.
Right, but,
And they're in it this January 1st.
pardon?
It's January 1st. They started January 1st.
Right, but my point is, things could still blow up there, right? And we could be looking at,
Yeah, but they're not gonna come back. Number one, I think they're on track to recover sooner rather than later. That all their milestones, they're hitting ahead of them. So and they did include enough to continue Waldo County in the budget. So I don't see this coming back. If anything changes, it'll be in next year's budget as opposed to this year.
okay,
I think it's safe to say we have a new floor now. Because we're catching up and getting better.
Yes,
And
that is.
63,902 reflects that new floor.
Yes, I think it
Or
does.
63,290.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Is that right?
Yes.
okay, could I ask one question? Of Betty, Betty, I noticed that there's no money budgeted for the emergency alert system. Can you just briefly Reader's Digest version, tell us where we're at with that?
I'm sorry, was I muted or not? That, initial expense that we did for the emergency alert system was basically a 5-year plan. Now, if we don't use those calls, we can bank those calls, so it doesn't cost anything over a period of time unless we use all of those calls up, of which we have not. We've been very conservative and using it primarily. We tested it a couple months ago, maybe 3 or 4. But there's no cost for that now and probably will not be. I calculated out probably for 5 years. So we're in good shape.
Okay, and can I ask one follow-up? How many people have signed up for that? Just roughly?
I can't recollect right now because the brain is not functioning. There's over 100. Do you remember, Terry, how many there are?
I don't.
I think 168, if I'm not mistaken, but they trickle in infrequently, so the number gradually keeps going up. But I wish everybody would sign up for that because it's going to be a valuable tool in the future, as you have seen with the incoming weather events that we've had. So you can't force them to sign up for it, but I really wish they would.
I don't feel like we've, and maybe I'm wrong and I missed it, but I don't feel like we've done a lot of publicity around it.
I
Oh,
don't.
Hmm?
We haven't since the beginning.
We haven't.
Could
No, I agree,
We could put something out on the web.
Yeah.
Could we do something at the town meeting, have a table or something? Or is that not something we do? Huh? Propaganda, yeah.
No, I said it was on the warrant.
Propaganda.
I think that we can try to get it out there again.
Discussion for another day, but thank you, Betty.
You're welcome.
Now I understand why there's nothing budgeted there.
Okay, so is there a motion to preliminarily approve the general public safety?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you all. Okay, so page 53. Line 172. Give us a minute to get there, Betty. So the department head asked for $5,000 to fund the emergency disaster reserve. Select board has recommended 0. Go ahead.
Last year I did not put anything in it And I think the weather conditions speak for themselves. These, bad weather systems are continuing. They're gonna get worse. And realistically, you can take care of these things, i.e., John, you can use the disaster reserve to repair your roads. I don't know why you haven't decided to do that, because they are declared disasters. And so you could use that reserve to repair the damage that are done by these storms. Now, I think you have got to be living in denial if you don't realize that these conditions are going to get worse, more frequent, and more severe. You are a coastal community, so you are vulnerable. There's 4 particular areas that are particularly vulnerable. Those areas are the Gig, Four Winds community down the hill off of 131, Spruce Head Island at McClunes, and Waterman's Beach Road, where the runoff is from 73. Now, if you don't have funds to repair the damages from these storms, you're going to have to dig it out from somewhere. And that's where this fund and why it was originally created, was to use it for these kinds of conditions. Now, you can go to the government, but as Terry has found out, it's a nightmare dealing with these people. Or you can simplify the process, get the repairs done and completed in a timely manner, and take care of the problem using the Emergency Disaster Reserve Fund. But it has got to be funded. So I'm now out of energy and off of my soapbox.
Okay, any questions, right? Weigh in.
Yeah, I was just curious why they chose 0.
Well, because there were targets, how large that fund should be, and it started out as 15,000 and to 20,000, and now there's 25,000 in it. So our thought was we have already exceeded what the target was to have in that. The reality is I don't see us on a routine basis using this. I would defer to the EMA director to say, we need to use this for this particular thing. And I don't know, I don't want to speak for John, but I don't think John is looking at this as a place to do the repairs that we're talking about being
Yeah, like
done.
how far would this go on any of this stuff? Those all sound like
Not
very
very far,
expensive
no.
repairs.
No, if you're gonna try to raise any bridges or roads, or you're going to do heavy duty paving, this would have to be, $1.5 million.
Is there another fund that you guys use for that sort of thing?
No, we use surplus, and then it's rolled up when it's declared an emergency, and it's rolled up through EMA to get reimbursed for it. But the reality is we haven't told EMA that we've needed it this year.
EMA, you mean FEMA?
I mean FEMA through county
Through
EMA
county EMA.
and
okay.
state EMA,
Didn't
right?
know whether-
We haven't reported any damage, any dollar cost associated with damage from this last.
Well, currently, we haven't met the threshold.
Yeah,
Square Barry. I mean,
Sounds
you worked with Betty,
That's what Betty had said.
and the threshold's $3,800, and we have, at this point, have not met that. Now, we may have some future.
yeah, I think that threshold is for it to be declared an emergency. I don't think there's a threshold for us to report once it's declared, once the.
There is always a threshold. There is
To
always a
predict
threshold that you have to meet.
For declaration, but once declaration's been made, individual towns don't need to now worry about a threshold. They just report the damage from it, and they'll reimburse or not reimburse. That's how.
No, that's not correct. There is always a threshold. if you fill out what we call a Form 7, where if there's any damages from a storm, you've got to meet usually a $3,000 threshold. And we have yet to meet that. But I am absolutely 100% sure in the future, we will have no problems meeting that $3,000. And if you start adding up debris removal, using excavators and heavy equipment, you are looking at a sizable amount of money. And if it's not available, then it just doesn't get cleaned up.
Well, these last two storms, Terry and you, I understood, pulled the bills and calculated the fire department's time and I thought it was 3,800, not 3,000. But
Well, normally
whatever.
when they, on this
Whether
particular,
it's
on
38 or
this particular-
3, whether it's 38 or 3 is immaterial. But my understanding is we didn't meet those levels, because I was pushing for that, and if I'm wrong, I'd love to be wrong, but
Well,
I mean,
since you
Terry,
said
can you-
there's a lot more work to be done because of the storms and the thresholds coming up, I opened up.
right,
I started the process and they will look at our application and they'll either accept us or they won't.
and we may meet that threshold when we actually get in and conduct some of the longer term repairs as opposed to immediate cleanup and stuff, but I don't know how far they reach back. I mean, if we don't, let me just give you a concrete example. We need to do some more work on Village Road, just beyond who we dug docks there. But we have not done that repair yet. We don't have an estimate on what or never mind a cost on what that's gonna be yet. You know, if when we do that work, I don't know if that can be added to the previous cost that we had that added up to what, a couple grand?
Just almost 3.
Or not, and if it can, then that's why I have suggested that we open that up and try to keep that open.
And it sounded to me like it could, because there was a place to check work complete, work started.
Yeah.
So I think it.
But that's nothing to do with this item, that's simply chasing federal dollars.
On this particular disaster, because it was essentially 2 days, they raised the threshold to 3,800. Normally, it is 3,000, but on
Okay.
this one, because it was the 2-day increment, they raised it up.
Okay, but we still didn't, at this point, have not met either of those thresholds in actual expenditures. Now, we may, as we move forward with some repairs, and I even asked if we approve the budget to do the survey work down by McClune's, can that be included? You know, as a cost of that repair, even though it's not brick and mortar, so to speak, but, so I guess the point is trying to chase the federal dollars, but again, that has nothing to do with this item.
Well, in some ways it does for me, because you're trying to get the federal to pay for emergency repairs,
Right.
you know, it helps us out. But at the same time, I'm like having a little money in the till for something that you can't always, kind of the insurance policy.
Well, and the other thing that makes this kind of 6 1/2 dozen of the other is typically that this town gives us this board authority to spend from surplus. So whether we take it from here or surplus, it's so, now if they didn't give us that authority, then that would be, I'd have a different stance on this, but.
First of all, when reserves are created, there are relatively specific purposes for which the reserve is created. Massive amount to me, and I was there at the beginning. So I'd like to see what we agreed on at that town meeting to create this reserve, and I will tell you that I do not believe that massive numbers of excavators and backhoes and whatever to re-raise Island Road in the event of a complete washout is not the purpose of this reserve. And at a time where we have and we're generating sufficient surplus to fund this reserve now will increase people's taxes and increase this budget. And I don't think it's necessary. We haven't spent any money out of this reserve in 2 years. So I agree with the recommendation of of the select board, and I think. Go ahead, Betty.
No, go ahead. I was just copying.
That if we want to create, and I don't disagree that climate change is we're gonna suffer more and more of this, and who knows, lagoons might be underwater in 5 years. So I think that the discussion of a major disaster reserve is the subject for another day, another budget cycle for you guys, and more due diligence on the subject.
I guess the question would be then, what is this? What was this intended for, the emergency staff? Is it for housing people that don't have a home?
I don't know, Betty, do you have the specifics of what the reserve was for, handy?
No, of course I don't have it handy, but the intention was for, if Spruce Head Island goes down the river, the water is, the road is flooded, then we have to evacuate people. That means we're gonna have to spend money to get them out of there. So absolutely, I would use that money to do that without even batting an eye. And realistically, Four Winds is really close to the low water mark. So I would not be a bit surprised in the future if there were some serious problems in that area. But do what you want.
But well, I just think 5,000, this is, we have a bigger problem and a bigger set of problems to address with regards to the climate change future than will be covered by this reserve.
And a couple of things that I would point out, why I agree we could spend money to evacuate people from Four Winds. We couldn't spend this money to repair that road, that's a private road. We couldn't spend money to repair people's property. This money, might be able to get FEMA money for that, but not this money.
Rarely.
Pardon?
Rarely does FEMA
Right.
do private property anyway, but they have.
And Betty, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's even rarer that they would do second homes, correct?
Thank you, Harry.
Was
Yeah,
that
you're
for me?
muted. Yeah, I know you said that it'd be very rare that FEMA dollars would repair private property, but I believe you said it would be even rarer that they would do people who had second homes.
Oh, absolutely, you're correct.
You said that would almost be impossible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're not gonna get any money for second homes. Absolutely not. Yeah.
So actually, we should, if we're gonna discuss this, we should have a motion to approve or to make a recommendation, preliminary recommendation on the funding of the emergency disaster reserve.
I'll make a motion that we don't fund it.
There's a second? I'll second it so it doesn't die.
I think quite bluntly, we just felt as a board that we agree with the idea in principle, but we thought 25,000 was an adequate amount to cover. I don't want to use the word minor, but that's what we were thinking. I think minor disasters. I mean, if the bridge washes, if the road washes out at Waterman's Beach where that culvert is, I mean, it's gonna be more than $25,000 to re-engineer that and raise it and fix it. I mean, substantially more, so.
At this point, since we haven't used that money, it doesn't make any more sense to keep funding it. Not to say that we shouldn't in the future, but.
We have used it at one point, did we not use it towards, I wasn't on the board then, but didn't we use it towards part of the ambulance purchase, or did we just
Yes.
borrow from it?
Yeah, we borrowed from it.
We just borrowed from it, okay.
So I am not well versed on how reserves are created, but it sounds like what you're saying, Walter, is we don't wanna fund this year, but we do need to create a reserve for essentially what this is already, so why don't we just turn this reserve into a more substantial reserve rather than not fund it? That's sort of my confusion, because it comes out of surplus otherwise?
Yeah, my point is that if you fund the reserve, it's coming out of appropriation.
Right,
And we're gonna tax ourselves to fund something that we haven't spent any money on for 5 years.
so have we spent surplus money in the last 5 years
To
on,
do what?
I don't know,
Remember, you just heard that we haven't met a 3,000 or a $3,800 threshold. So almost in every case, the budget that exists has absorbed it. Because every year we pay less into our budget. We don't meet our budget. We're always below our budget across the board. So we rarely even have to reach into surplus to do those 3,000, 5,000 things. They just get absorbed in the fire department's pay line, which we're obliged to pay, even if it goes over the budget. So some places will go over, other places will go under, and it comes out. $5,000 is gonna come out in the wash.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate that point. That doesn't, what Jeff said doesn't mean we haven't overspent individual budgets, right? The aggregate budget.
That's right. Yeah, and since the select board can reach into surplus, in case there is something drastic, and again, we've got a very healthy surplus. Even if we take, some out of it.
it just sounds like there's a disconnect on what this reserve has ever even been funded for.
Well, and that's partially because it was originally set up to be a quick grab for EMA for batteries, shelter requirements, get the lights turned back on. And originally it was gonna be $10,000. It was gonna be a $10,000 pot, so the EMA director didn't have to reach back for those minor things to the select board every time. And then each year after that, the amount increased. The idea of what it's gonna be used for changed, although that's not what we went to the town with. So the town has approved this reserve budget as I don't want to use the word slush fund because that's not the right term. But it's a safety net for the EMA director. That's what it is. And so if we are gonna change what the select board thinks this reserve account is for, then that's a whole nother discussion. And whether or not we want to have a reserve account that is going to cover something like a huge disaster that's gonna require $1 million. And since we are so healthy in our surplus, the question would be, would you want to tax taxpayer to put money in an account that's gonna sit there waiting for an emergency when you have a sufficient surplus to meet emergencies? And it's a philosophical question that bears.
If and when, it'll be when, the town faces significant disaster, there will be state and federal money available. It might not be timely, but there will be money available.
And we do have the surplus
And
to actually start addressing it, whether or not.
Correct.
Well, and not to mention that a lot of things would be potentially covered by insurance. Not so much flood related, but say the roof blew off the building here or something, or I don't know, maybe that's not a good example, but we do have property insurance.
So wind back a few years, once upon a time, the town was hand and mouth. We didn't have such a thing as a surplus, and John and Jeff and Penny certainly well remember those days. Now, the balancing act that we have to walk in a lot of cases is the difference between a reserve and surplus. Because you don't want them to become redundant investments. So surplus does two things for us: smooths out cash flow. But it's the rainy day fund. You know, I mean, you should have a certain amount of surplus, and Jeff and I will discuss that in August. Whether it's 10% or 12% of the equipment. And we're above and beyond that. Now, the $10 million disaster, we can't fund the surplus, but as Bob says, we'll probably get help for that. So I'm arguing strenuously to not fund this reserve out of altruism when it doesn't solve the biggest problem that we're confronted with. And it just adds to an 8% year-over-year budget increase if you were to fund it.
Thank you.
So there's a motion on the table to not fund this reserve. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Thanks.
And then
And Bob,
No, I made the motion, Walter seconded.
sorry for being on the soapbox.
No, it's wonderful for us to learn.
Can I make a request? In the interest of education, Terry, could you go dig up the warrant article that created this reserve and send it to everybody in this room? Around us all for future
Do you
discussion.
have an approximate year?
26, try 2016, 27, when was I hanging around here?
I don't
15,
think,
16, 17.
yeah, you were still on,
I was on when it
you were
was
on
created.
when it was.
Yeah, I don't remember, I was.
You were not on.
Yeah, I don't think I was.
No, it was Jan Sherman.
I thought it was supposed to be more like when the fire department and the ambulance are here and this is the central
Yeah.
office where everyone's, if they needed something, they could go get it with that money and not have to.
Right. So we all have a different opinion of what we remembered 5 years ago. So let's go ground ourselves in the reality and then move on from there.
Probably clear as mud.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you, Betty.
Yeah, thank you.
Go do some honey NyQuil and take care of yourself.
feel better.
Thanks, I'm gonna be leaving. Have a good meeting.
Take care.
Bye.
Now we're gonna go back to the beginning. Conservation Commission, line 234. Probably has a count number. 11. Don, it sounds like you're on the firing line.
I never dreamed that would take 45 minutes.
There's education this year, I'm asking a lot of questions.
That's fine. That's fine.
I haven't spoken up in the past.
Nice to be
I've just been
informed.
learning.
So that you can then become informative.
Yeah.
I'm there too, it's my 4th year and I'm finally starting to think some of it I understand.
When you figure it out, let me know.
Please,
I've lived so long.
Sandra,
I'm coming. All right. So I'm accusing myself for this and for the forest reserve. So, it's all pretty straightforward and very little changed from last year, except that because of the preserve, we're having expenses that we didn't have before, like a lot of copying and photographs and outreach and so on. That's really all I have to say unless people have questions on the conservation account.
this is the 618.
That's the 618. I guess I should say that just, we are feeling our way as we get on this large new responsibility. And most of what we've asked for is in the reserve. We're also hoping to raise a lot of donations, and we have got one grant, getting ahead of myself on the reserve, and hopefully we'll have another and there are more grant opportunities. But if there is stuff that we've got to pay for, and when we don't have any of those grant or donations to cover, it's gonna have to come somewhere, and we'll be back to the select board as we in the learn by doing department. So
Okay,
But all we're asking for is $100 over last year for the Conservation Commission itself.
All right, is there a motion to preliminarily approve the Conservation Commission budget 615?
So moved.
For a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? So 1173. Okay, so this does not exist.
Would have
Yeah.
to be voted by town meeting to review it. So you
Well,
all, you all got
this,
a handout.
before we go on.
Yeah.
Take people through the process now. This is a new reserve,
Correct,
and will appear for approval at the town meeting,
correct.
Yes.
so keep your eyes open for the warrant.
Well,
And preserve the warrant for 5 years from now, when we're arguing about what the purpose of this reserve is.
I'm not 100% sure that's what we've done in the past. I think we've just named it and had money associated with it, and that created it.
That's what I always thought.
That is,
So
I
I
understand.
don't think you're gonna find anything
Right.
that defines.
It'll be delineated on there,
Yeah, right.
that the reserve, that this reserve account is going to be funded with, that the town is gonna fund it with $20,000.
Yeah.
But there's not a line item that says, do you approve this reserve account?
Being great.
I could be wrong about that, but that's my
Yeah.
recollection of how reserves have
It's not-
been created.
Right, it's not specifically approved as
Correct.
a new
Right.
reserve.
But they have to
It's-
vote for the
it's-
money.
It's on
Right.
warrant and,
So my point is, when Terry goes looking for this, I don't think she's.
I don't think she's gonna find any language.
Oh,
well,
I think it'll be in the minutes, select board minutes, when the MA director requested the funds. The reserve account, that's where the discussion would be.
What?
so.
Now I got lost.
He's talking about the.
Yeah.
Betty reserve.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm having trouble keeping up.
Go ahead, Simon, you're up. You're
Okay,
up.
so
Sorry.
I just, as background, I wanted to walk the budget committee through, the financial side of this new enterprise. Been through it with the select board largely, and that's why there's $20,000 proposed by them in budget. So we bought last summer, in fall, we bought 129 acres, give or take, from 2 sellers. One seller's price was so generous because it was conditioned on putting the land into preservation. That, as you can see from the summary on purchase price, the total purchase price was only 30% of the assessment. That's not to say that the appraised value or what the market value would have been, which would presumably have been higher. So when we applied to Land Remains Future for a grant, we learned, to our great relief, that that's called a bargain sale. And we can count the excess value over purchase price as our match. So we did not have to come up with a 50% match to apply for that grant. But what we can get is only, they will only count 50% of the ultimate appraised value. And that is going to be less than it would have been because once you put a condition like it must go into preservation on land, its value drops. But since the total, the purchase price was a third of the total value of both properties, we are assuming that the total value when appraised will still be substantially more than we paid for it. And so we can still count that as match, but it might not come out to the amount that we could get as a grant may drop. Well, you're looking.
Keep going.
Okay, so first of all, you shouldn't be counting on our getting the grant. We think we have a good shot, but nothing certain. And, you shouldn't be counting on the grant being the whole 67,000. But we're hopeful that we'll get it and that it will be a substantial amount. And you're still looking confused.
Yeah, you're really confusing me.
Could you formulate why you're confused?
Sure, we bought this already, right?
Yes.
Yes,
So the grant is to reimburse ourselves for money that we've already spent.
Correct.
ordinarily, Land Remains Future helps you buy land, and that's what grants are for. They disfavor this kind of application.
I understand that.
We had to go through extra hoops to remain eligible.
Okay, keep going.
But yes, it's to
Get to
help
the
us.
20,000 and why.
So, okay, so in addition, that money's spent, but there's more money we will have to spend to qualify for the grant. If they say we're gonna give you the money, they are going to say, but only if you have a recordable survey making clear that this is the land you bought. We have secured a grant to do that survey for $12,000, which is the surveyor's estimated cost. But because the grant is from a nonprofit that must, a foundation that must only give to nonprofits, we have to pass that grant through Georges River Land Trust, and they will take 8% out as their fee for doing that. So we will need to come up with, and we will come up with about $960, or, that was only the surveyor's estimate. It might not be exactly 12,000, might be more, but we can come up with whatever the difference is through donations. Okay, so far so good, but now we're actually having to spend money. That was boundary survey documentation. Now we're down to appraisal. You can do appraisals a variety of ways. There is a way to do it that isn't as expensive as what's called Yellow Book. That would satisfy Land Remains Future, but we would not be eligible without doing what's called the Yellow Book appraisal to ever get any federal money, including, for example, the trails grants that come through, I'm blanking on the chunk of Maine government, but they get those, their trails grants come with federal money, and we would not be eligible for that unless we do the Yellow Book appraisal. And it is extremely difficult to get anybody to give us a serious estimate on what Yellow Book would be. But it's going to be a lot more than $8,000 if we go that route. We will have to do, moving on, an environmental site assessment, which determines if there are any hazards, somebody's, dump toxic waste in part of the land, whatever. The assessment itself is $4,000. That's a pretty set fee. But then if anything is found, we have to pay for cleanup before we're eligible for to actually get the money. And then if they say, okay, you've jumped through all those hoops, we're ready to give you the money, there would be legal fees. We would be working to develop what's called a project agreement. And we would have to demonstrate that we have clear title. That's fairly easy with the Smith land. You have a warranty deed and a pretty clean closing attorney's report. The Klein land was quitclaim deed. And the biggest problem was that there was no survey, so the survey will solve that, but there might be some other loose ends. So we might have legal fees or who knows what to clear that hurdle. And we will have to acquire title insurance for the appraised value, whatever that turns out to be. And that's estimated at $1,200. So I haven't even tried to add it up because it includes question marks, etc. But we will need to come up with that money, and that is basically why we've asked for the $20,000.
I have a question. So The grant that you applied for, how much are you asking for?
We're asking for $67,000, which is our purchase price.
I applied for and received a grant from Land for Maine Future, purchase Ralph Colby's property, from Spruce Lake Co-op. And it took a long time, and we jumped through hoop after hoop after
This is
hoop
true.
after hoop. And because, I mean, it right down, they make you do everything, and it worked out well, but I mean, it just took so much. I'm a little bit skeptical that you're gonna get yourself into something that you've already purchased. And it's got, at a certain point, you can say, this isn't worth it anymore, after you've spent X thousands of dollars. And, you know, especially you mentioned if they found hazardous materials in a cleanup, what would that cost?
Well, if they, on the other hand, if they do find hazardous materials, we may think that the only responsible thing to do is clean it up. Quite independent of whether it gets us a grant.
Yeah, I'm just,
So
So,
we're hopeful that there won't be. I mean, this is all land that has been in private ownership for a long time. And we know pretty much what they did and did not use it for. So we're reasonably confident we won't have any, turn up anything, but we never know.
make sure I'm understanding, so you will have to do these surveys and spend this money, but the grant is still not guaranteed until you basically provide them all this documentation.
Right.
Right.
But some of it, I
So,
mean, things
yeah,
like
but
getting a
that's
survey.
a little misleading, because a lot of this, if we turned down the grant, we wouldn't do a lot of this. So we're turned down right out of the gate. The only thing we're on for now is a survey, and we've got a grant to cover that.
But, so what I'm struggling to, partly due to the exhibit, I'm afraid.
Mhm.
In order to get 67,000, are you telling us that you're gonna spend 12, 8, 4, 800 and 1,200 in order to get it? And if that's the
Which
case,
is
what's the
26.
point?
Well, no, wait, that's
Right, yeah.
one way to look at it. But I would think, I mean, I've been kind of amazed at the standard Maine approach to property ownership, which is that every piece of property I've ever dealt with in Maine, I come across, it's never been surveyed and the property lines aren't where you think they are. I would think that a responsible town owning land would want a survey, whether we get the grant or not. So that's, I think, I would not altogether say that's really part of what the hoop we're jumping through to get the grant. I would think it's something we're doing to be sure of our ownership of what we want.
Well, and
So
with
where-
that,
where-
it's for other grants, it's for other grants.
Right, any grant we go for, they're going to
We're-
want a survey,
Yeah.
appraisal, title insurance.
But
So-
I think you gotta take the 12 out, that's covered, that's not part of the 20.
Correct,
That's covered from another store,
completely.
that's a done deal. I
That's
mean,
where it's at.
We have a grant,
They got a grant for 12 grand, to cover the survey, that's,
that it says right there.
All right, so
Yes.
but that's not part of the 20.
$12,000 grant.
two,
I'm just
two
telling you
things,
all the things
can you
we
help me
had
out
to
with
do.
two things?
Yes,
Tell me what the 20,000, where the 20,000 is in all of this, number one. And explain to me why I'm seeing all this for the first time. And I'm pretty aware and I'm kind of involved, but I'll tell you something. I don't approve expenditures of $20,000 that I'm seeing for the first time without any backup or any notice or anything. Now, is that because it all happens at the Conservation Commission and because I don't go?
I
even though I
came
do
to the
read
select
minutes?
board with basically
She's
just
She's
saying.
been here almost every meeting for the last 3 months.
So
4
am I.
months.
No, well, maybe you were you not at that meeting?
And I read all your
Represented
minutes.
basically the parent to this exact
Yeah.
report and talked it all through with the select board.
Because we had to
at a
submit the
public
grant.
meeting, which was then reported on the website, so it's like notice was available.
Yeah, this is not new to the select board, and the only way we get it is from them coming and talking to us.
So you approved it? Well, we approved it with the understanding that we weren't gonna spend, forget the survey, set that aside, okay, that's out of the picture.
We
weren't
needed
gonna
to do,
spend any of
had to
this
do that anyway.
Unless we got the grant.
Or unless down the road, there's another grant you wanna go for, and we
Right,
have to do
right.
the same thing.
So that was the theory, that, we'll spend 20 to get 67.
And our process on this one, we are anticipating getting 67,000 back. That replenishes because the land was purchased with surplus. So, this 67 will replenish the surplus.
Okay.
And then we're gonna use 20,000 of surplus for this. So this will be funded through surplus.
To the
Is our
extent, I mean, it would be in surplus, there will also be, we'll also be seeking donations.
Right.
It doesn't all have to come out of surplus.
Right.
But the surplus is there.
Our basic thinking, it was worth investing, potentially setting aside 20 grand to get, but potentially get 67.
Well, that's different than adding up all these things on the first page.
Right,
It's
but
misleading.
one of the things that helps with this grant and other grants is to show that the town is investing, so that showing that 20,000 shows our intent to move forward with it.
Okay, you mollified my concern.
Yeah.
But as Bob said, it's like working with.
This is real challenging.
Yeah.
Real challenging.
Well,
You're gonna be very frustrated through the process. I'm not saying you're not gonna get it in the end,
Yeah.
but you might not.
I think so.
I
I'm
think
very
she's
aware
through
of
that. I think she's through most of that process.
Right.
Do they keep coming back and asking for more and more things? Is that part of the challenge?
Yeah.
Although they haven't yet, but it goes on for months. We do not expect to hear, well, we will probably be invited to come to a Land Remains future board meeting where they go over our proposal. But we don't expect to actually get a decision until late in the year. That's what they do. They take months of cudgeling these things.
It'll take longer,
Well,
which is fine. I'm just cautioning you.
Well-
It will take longer.
they have a cycle until they try to get one set of decisions made before they reach out and ask for
I
another
went
round.
through this 2 times. Co-op got one over 10 years ago, and then just a few
Yeah.
years ago, and it just.
And so when,
It could be a good resource for the.
yes, you
And I think they have a vacancy.
they do.
Hmm?
But, no, seriously, when did you, what time of year did you submit and when did you then?
It took us 2.5 years from the time we started the process to the time we received the money. 2.5 years.
Well, Al's Head has gone through this process. And I think St. George was applying with us this time. I don't think it took them that long.
No problem. I mean, that might be extreme. But all I'm cautioning you is they want every T crossed, every I dotted, and if it isn't done in an exact certain way, you gotta do it that way, and for good reason.
That they're spending, the public's money and they are absolutely going to show that they did their due diligence. Which in a way is responsible and in a way they kind of overdo it. I get it. I do get it. So, not to keep you here all night. The other thing that will have to happen, I mean, obviously, we didn't buy that land as a specific. So we are going to, and these are not huge investors, and we're going to get volunteer labor, volunteers, materials, and donations. But we are going to, we're interviewing consulting foresters who will go over the land and tell us what needs to be done, help us develop a management plan. We want to build trails ultimately, and there's grant money for that. But that's down the road. In the short run, we need to put up signage and maybe do other things to keep ATVs off the land, which is another condition of purchase. And now the select board in favor of doing that. Working on an ordinance, expanding that idea to the all
Yeah, I think.
town-owned land.
I think we've done the.
It's a condition of the LMF grant.
It's a
No,
condition
no,
of sale of the property.
Oh,
Smith,
Yeah,
but we're proposing an ordinance that would ban ATVs on the Smith, Klein, and the existing town property out back here. It's a mess.
yes, the
I'm sorry,
damage
sorry.
ATVs can do is, it's just,
Oh, I understand.
The coolest thing, the most compelling thing I heard was spend 20 to get 67. That's kind of,
That's what I like about it.
So, yeah, and it's really set aside 20 to
yes,
get
but
60.
you don't have to
So-
spend it if.
so what's that
you
got
do it
to do with
other
all
way.
this other stuff down?
I just wanted you to have an idea of money we will need to spend or the equivalent, I mean, donations or whatever. There are things we need to do.
And how will that be presented? How are you gonna go about it? Now, I don't want you to answer that because it's subject for another budget cycle. So what you're doing is warming us up for
Well,
more to come from
there will
the, from buying the Smith land.
there,
It's like the free sidewalk that we bought out here, that we got out here, right? We have to sweep it and clean it and all that kind of stuff.
sidewalks are nice.
Yeah, I voted for it.
Okay.
So
But it's the
Just-
first page.
And there
Yeah.
will be
can we,
a.
in the interest of
campaign.
efficiency,
Yeah,
and again, mollifying my concern about $20,000, but I'll take it that we're gonna do it in surplus and that mollifies that. What's it for?
excuse me,
So estimated monitoring and management expense costs, that's the $20,000, that's what being put in the reserve?
no, that just happens to be the same number.
No, it's for all the things that are
It's for
listed.
all the things are listed, so
Except the service.
as needed, because we don't have the donations or the grants or the volunteer labor to do it that way. Instead, it's there when we can't raise it another way.
So there's $14,000 here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's gonna be used for. Starting for $12,000 for the boundary survey, right?
That's,
Oh, that's already done. So I'm sorry, it's 8 for, yeah.
Well, and appraisal, you don't know, because the select board's gonna have to decide.
So that's why you're saying 20.
Or
That's why you're saying 20 is because these prices right here add up to 14.
14.
Did we- So you've got a little bit more in there because you don't really know for sure how much the appraisal is gonna be. If you do a yellow book, it's
That's
gonna be
correct.
significantly more. And any hazards found could incur some costs.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so that's where the 20 is.
yes, so really,
So
the
can I-
town is embarking on a very significant development, land development. In there, and so this is the first step in providing the seed money for all the things that have to happen to get it ready to be developed. And then in the future, there's gonna be costs for actual construction. Somebody's gonna have to go out there and take down some trees and make some pathways and
Not
put
very
up,
many trees.
put up bird feeders and,
Don't call it developed, though.
Yeah.
Because
Right,
you'll
right,
freak-
right.
you'll freak
Choice
out
of words.
some conservationists that are not in the room.
right.
Can I have a motion, just so we can move this along, to preliminarily approve the recommendation to fund this reserve with $20,000?
So, second,
Okay, so, Sonia, I had a boss once, and what he told me over and over again when I get up in front of his staff to make presentations was less is best. Especially when you're trying to sell something. So, any discussion?
I just have a quick question, when you were talking about developed or not, and don't say developed, okay? My mind is going to the wellness walk over by 10-day. Is that kind of what we're thinking of? Because there's like, you said something here about kiosks or signage and et cetera, and in some cases, they've made the walkway a little bit better. It's not sort of boardwalk or a little bridge or something, but it's wooded. Is that, do you know what path I'm talking about?
Vision,
I've heard of it, I haven't seen it.
I mean, in some ways, when we were talking about being educated, so that therefore we can educate. If we know what we're thinking, then, and if it looks like that, I wouldn't say that that's developed, but it's a beautiful.
Wrong choice of words.
Yeah.
It will require construction.
Yes, yes.
Because you've gotta get in there to put down if you wanna use chip wood or whatever kind of pathway in some places. Some places it'll be the natural.
Mhm.
Well, there's several woods roads out there already that are, some are in good shape and some are really torn up. And we also have the issue of getting around the Presser Road property, but it's,
But that's how I envision
I
it.
mean, you could walk out there now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
somebody
not
said
what
to
you
make
would
sure
call,
you-
you would not call it an easy stroll. at this point. But my wife and I walked all the way to the back and all the way to the Bennett line a couple of
And
times.
actually said it.
Yeah, and you can do it, but it would not call it
Yeah,
an easy
it's-
stroll at this point. Parts of it are, but parts of it aren't. And the main reason is because of the ATV damage.
I don't think I can,
But that's what we envision. That's what I envision.
Is that-
It's that kind of a walkway.
Yeah,
Kiosk would be something at the head of it,
just.
where we're probably, where our parking lot is. And, just to give you information and a map and those kind of things, so.
Can I make one last comment? Sure. I know you want to, I guess it's important to spend this money just to see if we're gonna get that grant, or hopefully to get the grant. What we're talking about now is years down the road. But whatever.
Absolutely, but this is the beginning of it, and you have to do some of this.
Yeah.
Even if we didn't get the grant, you'd still have to do some of that stuff to be able to do that.
And then decide in the years down the road how much more money the town wants to spend.
Correct.
Or not, or just leave it a while.
Right, exactly.
So this is all consistent with the comprehensive plan, although that probably needs to be updated.
What's next?
What?
We're still using it though.
Yeah, the Georges River Land Trust, area, the Anderson property, the Hayfields. There was a big controversy there, and they wanted to put up the stone bench on the water. I don't even know how that was resolved. Who will rule on that kind of thing for our newly acquired conservation land? Who says we can and cannot do stuff like that, like kiosks?
Yeah, there was a short amount of time when we didn't really know whether it'd be us or Georges River. But I think now Georges River is not gonna be, they have said they're not gonna be in the oversight governance portion of this.
Right, no, they ran into conflict with some local authority over, that was the CEO, or, it was, I don't think it was our CEO, I think it was the town's CEO, wouldn't allow what they were trying to do on conservation land that they own.
Yeah, well, I think we know who our CEO is.
Yeah.
And right now it's the town,
Okay.
so it's the select board that through the conservation committee.
Now, does the select board intend to fund this through surplus?
Yes.
Well, they're not gonna have this out in the warrant.
Yes, yeah,
To have it in surplus.
yeah,
No, the fund it.
to fund it, to fund your reserve.
Fund is
fund
fund reserve,
We
but not,
wouldn't- Again, we wouldn't
necessarily
use it necessarily if we're turned flat down for the grant.
but.
No, but if approved, it's coming from surplus
Right.
that
Yeah.
exists now.
Because the 67,000 would go back to replenish
Right.
surplus or whatever amount we get, if it's, as Sonia said, it might not be 67, it might be 50 or whatever.
We really don't know.
Right.
Without an appraisal.
All right, everybody cool?
Mhm.
There's a motion on the table to approve to preliminarily recommend the $20,000 funding of the new forest reserve. All in favor?
Thank you. Thank you for your mercy.
I think you guys should know, but Sonia and Catherine, her name just went right out of my head. Put a tremendous amount of work.
AKA Ben Hunt.
Writing this grant and submitting it, under a crunch deadline, and they should be acknowledged for that. It's very well detailed and well done.
And they did dot a lot of i's across a lot of.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, so I think in this case, I think they are ahead of the game on that.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't take as long as what we had to deal with.
Yeah, well, we really did. Dot every I and cross every T. You can see. Copy of it's here, if anybody want to look, the picture is just the pictures are pretty stunning. Both how lovely it is and how appalling some of the damage is.
The ATV the ATV ordinance is coming?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, solid waste, 923, page 41. Who's our waste manager?
Oh.
Bill.
Bill,
Okay, moving on. This actually needs some updating, does it not, Terry?
I think so.
I was just looking at the numbers, don't you think we do need to update it?
Cause we got new pricing in from the hauler after we've done this, remember?
Right, but in the 2020, in the 23-24 budget for container rental, push can down, oh, that one really doesn't matter, never mind. I think we put a lot there.
Where's the home?
But
I don't,
we have not updated these since that new information came in, correct?
correct, but we don't think we made it enough higher.
I don't know, cause you and Phil did the calculations on the number of trips and per trip and the tonnage and. Remember, I wasn't involved in that.
Yeah.
Where does that show up, John? What line is it?
Just to make it very simple, after we put this budget together, we got a letter from our contractor, D, Kim and J, with some fairly substantial price increases for roll-off service, which would be line 938.
Got it, okay.
Container rental, which is is in 939, some of it, or part of that number is there, and also the disposal fees, which they have no control over, they simply pass through, which is on line 972. And we did put in an increase factor when we developed this budget. But the increases, I think, were above and beyond our
I'm not sure.
factor, but maybe not, I don't know, because I didn't do them.
I don't remember what number we used.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you used here, but I think 5% was the increase overall in each of those subcategories, right? The actual contract was a 5%
Was
increase.
it 5? I thought John said it was 18, I thought that was high.
Yeah, it was, I think it was higher than that. But having said that, we're through March, let's just look at disposal fees. We're through March, which is 9 months, correct?
Yeah.
So if you divide that by 9 times 12. What? What did I do wrong? How come this never works? I'm trying to do something quickly. 2, 3. 965 divided by 12 is 2,000 a month roughly. So 12 times 2,000 is 24. That can't be right. That can't be right. My calculator so slow, sorry. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry, divide by 9, I'm divided by 12, no wonder it comes out. 2,600. So call it 2,700 times 9, 12. $32,000. We'll spend this year, and I think it was, I don't have that letter, so I don't know what the increase was. So can we get it? Because if it was 18%, that's 38,000, even then with 38,000, but I guess my other question. I don't know that these expenses are linear on a month, because in the winter it's much slower than
Correct.
summer months, and we have
Spring is
spring is the biggest.
And right now, roll-off services were 17% more than we were last year. And for the container, it were 52%, and that one did go up quite a bit. And for the disposal fees were 14%.
So
So
I think, Phil, you guys didn't rework the numbers after you got the letter.
No.
Okay. We probably need to.
So
Yeah,
are you
it's
saying
18.
these numbers don't reflect the news you just got?
Right.
yes, that's what we're thinking.
And
We guesstimated a number and just.
Right, but we haven't validated whether or not the estimate is enough. I think we need to go through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to get the contract.
Yeah, well, I don't know, we can do it, can we do it here? Right,
It's just 3 lines.
okay.
Oh, we can wait and do it Monday.
Personally, I hate figuring out budgets in the middle of.
Okay, well, okay.
Especially when they're fairly large numbers like this one, geez, but.
Yeah, but I don't
Well,
think,
all right.
I don't think the change is gonna be that much.
I don't think.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we, can we do this, do it, and then we can check it over the weekend, and if we find that, oops,
Yeah, yeah.
we can talk about it Monday?
Yep.
Okay,
So,
so we need that letter though,
how about we take
You want
no
me to do it
action?
now?
if we're gonna do it. Is that what you wanna do? I don't know, I'm asking the group, I'm not asking you.
So does this include the brush going in?
Well, that's a whole other issue,
Yeah, that's another thing.
we haven't even got there yet, that's the complicated part,
Are we,
That's right.
are we doing that now?
not yet.
I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna do it.
Penny, what was your question?
They're going to start putting the brush into a can instead of burning it.
Well, we're gonna test it,
Right.
but if you want, I can go ahead and talk about that while she's getting the letter.
That's what I thought.
Okay, we got a surprise visit from DEP inspection, we haven't had one in years. And it didn't go too bad. But the biggest issue they had is with the burning of the brush, evidently at some point. When I don't know how far to go back, we used to burn everything that would burn, not plastic, but painted wood. Pressure treated wood, maybe none of that, but
No, we.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we went and we burned, and we took out the pressure treated wood, right? We
Right.
couldn't do that. And then we took out the painted wood. And then we took out any milled wood and we just burned a brush and logs and leaves. and-
Everything but stumps.
Yeah, no stump, no stump.
Just to be sure, we didn't do that altruistically. It was because every time we shipped off the ashes, we had to test the ashes. And if they failed the test, then we couldn't ship them off or we got fined. So we started cutting things out of it so that we could pass the test.
Right. So anyways. Sometime in the past 5 or 6 years, unbeknownst to me, I never learned about it, they changed the regulations and now includes. You gotta test if you're just burning brush. So we haven't been doing that, so that was a violation, and we gotta do that. A couple other minor things they came up with, there weren't biggies, but the big thing was that they said if you're gonna continue to burn, you have to have the fire department on site until the flames are extinguished. And that sometimes can take a couple of days, literally. You know, particularly if there's a little breeze so that's gonna get very expensive. Not only that, we can't get anybody to sit out there all night long. It's a terror. I've been out there at 12 at night when it's burning and it's a scary place out there. But anyway, so we're looking for alternatives. One alternative is to take, and this is the alternative we're gonna test. We would coordinate with DMJ and a local contractor, bring a big 50 cubic yard can down,
Because they compare.
dump it one day, load it the next day and haul it away the next day because when it sits there, we're paying for it. So we're gonna have to coordinate that to do it quickly. So we're gonna test that because I need to get a sense of how much of that pile will fit into a 50-yard container. And the disposal fee on the brush is a lot less than it is for demo debris because they take it and they don't chip it, but they grind it and they sell the grinder. So we're gonna test that.
So when you fill the can,
Yeah.
are you then gonna crush it?
Oh, yeah, we'll take the excavator and
Get the
pound it
air out
down
of there.
and, right, yeah, oh, definitely. So, so we may go that route. Somebody has suggested, that the town buy a chipper. I mean, personally, I'm opposed to that. I would rather see if we're gonna try that to rent a chipper. But that's pretty labor intensive. And that pile is pretty, people bring a lot of crap in there. It isn't just brush, there's dirt in it sometimes and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping that this can idea will work because we really need to get away from the burning because number one, the cost is gonna go up. Number two, the neighbors hate it, which I understand when the smoke is pouring over on the Grissom Road or out here, filling your house up. And it's just a nasty way to get rid of it. And so, that's in a bit of a state of flux on how we're gonna deal with that.
Would you have to build a bulkhead? So.
No, we can just set it on the ground. We don't need any new permits or anything. We just need to. We need to make sure it's fairly clean. Try to keep as much dirt and stuff out of it as you can because they are running it through a grinder, not like a chipper that you would see. So it doesn't make chips, it makes shredded, grinded stuff. So we're gonna try that. And maybe we could grind some of it. This person who suggested that we buy a chipper, thought that we could chip some and the townspeople could come take it away and we could maybe use it on the trails out back down the road. But that's labor intensive and I'm not comfortable with having, that person suggested that the attendant can do it when he's out there and I'm not comfortable with somebody out back there all alone running a grinder, with, you know.
Yeah, right.
So now, will they get hurt or, oh, my arm.
Shades of
I think you need two people, so now you got that expense, if you can find somebody, so. It's in a bit of a state of flux and I'm hoping. Everybody tells me that you're gonna be surprised at how much of that pile you can fit in a 50-yard roll-off bin, and that's the deep one where you throw stuff in once you pack it down. So I'm hoping that maybe is the solution. But we don't know until we sort of test it. And then we could do away with the burning. This big pile of ashes and old wood would have to have that tested, take that away. We would have to start putting leaves and grass and plant material into the hopper, which is not great. Composting that stuff is an option, but that takes manpower and we'd have to modify our permit out there. And build some sort of pad that can contain leachate. I guess it's relatively complicated to do that, but it sounds like some group in town could take that on. I'm not looking at any particular group, but so that's what that's at.
You might want to see if Scrap Dogs might be interested in doing something there.
Hmm?
Scrap Dogs, They run that composting operation that's in most of the transfer facilities. You might want to see if
They,
something
I'm
they'd be
not familiar
interested
with
in.
them.
Pardon?
I'm not familiar with
They
them at
do
all.
food,
Huh?
food,
Oh, we don't do any food out there.
they take the food, nobody does.
It's
They,
food
well, they
compost.
take home compost, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well,
They don't take leaves and stuff.
they
though.
take it,
Yeah,
stuff?
no.
they don't.
Okay.
No, it's just food, little bins.
So, well, to say I think we're in a state of flux out there is a understatement, and, the other option is, we don't have to take brush at all. There's no requirement. That's an option.
Not a good one.
Okay. That would be up to people individually, you hire the tree service to come chip your brush or whatever. But I floated that idea and Jeff and Sue didn't seem particularly.
Well, it's like tires, when you started charging for tires, they started hauling them off the road.
Right,
Right.
You say you can't burn grass anymore, then throw it off the bridge,
Yeah,
it
I know.
becomes someone else's
that's the
problem.
downside to it, yeah.
Or
I agree,
burning
I
themselves.
understand. But I think our days of burning are coming to an end. And I know I don't wanna do it anymore, because every time I do it, I get sick for 2 days afterwards.
Which tells you that it's full of pollutants.
It's smoke.
It is pretty much full of brush now.
It is, yeah.
It's not painted wood or anything.
No, and Dana does a good job, but. Anyway,
It's just-
so did you wanna go through the calculation?
Yeah, I just did, and the first one for roll-off services, that went up by 18%. That was
Yeah,
the biggest one. But so it turns out to be 36,000 instead of 35. So we missed it by 1,000, and it's actually 35,288.
Right, but if we do brush this way,
It's gonna go up.
it's gonna go up, so.
True. Yeah, and that piece of it,
We'll try to minimize that by getting the can in and out of there as quickly as possible.
and on the next one, the container and push down on it.
Same
That,
thing.
that one, that was only a 10% increase.
Right, but for some of that is not DM and J, some of that's Calic.
Right. Right, so.
That runs about 1,000 a month,
It's more than that.
huh?
It's more like 1,200 a month.
For Calic?
Yep.
Okay,
Just for
well,
Callan?
yeah, pushing up the pile, but we wouldn't have to push up the pile, but we'd have to load the container, so that's probably gonna be a push.
Yeah.
Actually, probably.
So that'd still be less than the 20 that you recommend.
Well, no, because the container rental
Rental is separate from Calic.
is 15 on its own.
Yeah, and then if we do the brush this way, we're gonna have a little more in container rental, even if it's only there.
And what'd you say Callan was, 1,200?
1,200 a month.
Yeah, that's,
And that's with equipment on site. Remember, he has a snowplow contract, so he keeps the backhoe out there, and if someone had to transport that in every time and unload it and reload it, that would be even more expensive.
I think that's where that number should probably be closer to 30,000 instead of 20,000.
Which number?
The container rental,
You'd say closer to 30.
30, I think 30,000 would work.
Oh. So are you keeping the other one at 36,000 or raising it to 40? Did I hear that?
The roll-off services, I'll defer to John. 36 is what it comes out just for.
Year over year, but not with the brush.
Correct. Adding the brush in there, would increase it some.
Yeah, and again, I don't have a sense of how much. I just don't have a good sense, until we do it the first time, I don't have a good sense of how much of that pile that's out there now, they can cram into a 50-yard roll-off.
Yeah.
If it's all of it, then. Geez, we probably can do 4 trips a year, but if it's a tenth of it.
Yeah, and each trip. is-
But we'll have that by town
Trips,
meeting.
yes. Each trip's 400, about 381. So doing 10, 12.
They can't come survey and tell you how much they think they could put, I mean. they
Well,
can-
he said, he said I was gonna be surprised how much we could get in there but he said the only way really to get a good sense of it is just do it. And probably do it a couple of times. But, yeah, and he sounded hopeful that, you know, if you do it the right way and really pack it down, you can get a lot in there. That's what he was telling me, but.
So are you gonna need to use like a chainsaw or something, because it's just brush.
They just take an excavator with a claw on it,
Oh,
load
okay.
it in, tamp it down.
Oh, okay, there's some way to smash it.
Oh, yeah. They do that with the cans now,
Okay.
with the demo and stuff. I mean, because if we didn't, we'd be hauling air.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So again, I think 40,000 for the roll-off service would accommodate that. So if we made that 40,000, the next one 30,000. The disposal fee, I think we're good at 40,000.
Well, that doesn't count the brush.
Yeah, it does. It adds about 3,000.
I'm sorry, how much disposal fee?
40,000.
That's what it is.
Unchanged.
That's what we proposed initially.
Right, yeah.
So you think that's okay?
Yeah, because that only increased by 5%. The cost of that only. increased by
Okay,
5%.
because that's not actually a DMJ cost, that's a
We should get
That's
that.
a pass-through cost, yeah.
Right, so even if we did 10 of them or 12, did one a month for that, it still would be less than 3,000.
And the disposal fee is less for that,
Correct.
because they take it, chip it, grind it, and sell it. He keeps saying, no, we don't chip it.
So that's right. So that's what?
Yeah.
5 and 10, 15, we're adding 15 to it.
And maybe by town meeting, if we have a little more information, we can reduce that or increase it.
Yeah,
Didn't you say the disposal fee could be different as well?
yes, and that's what we talked about, is the disposal fee actually only went up by 5%. And even if we did 12 of those, that's still less than $3,000. So we're putting in 3,000 for the extra disposal. So I think 40 on the disposal fee should be good.
God, I would think 12 of those cans would take a lot of brush.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, I'm giving you back your meeting so you can vote on this. We can then vote on it.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to do what he said.
Okay. All right, so we're changing, we are recommending to change 938 to 40,000, 939 to 30,000. And that's it. So that's an increase of 15,000. So the bottom line is 345,840. And before you vote on that, though, I do want to talk a little bit about. Is it on here? Where's it at?
This transfer station.
Transfer station. And,
Now, I'm gonna take my meeting,
okay, all right,
and then I'm gonna introduce the subject to the transfer station.
there you go.
Flat year over year, huh?
Did you guys
Absolutely.
vote though?
Oh,
Yeah,
that
your
is-
motion?
Oh, we did
No, we
vote.
didn't.
All those in favor?
John, are we voting on the amendment here?
Yeah, then we're recommending those changes.
Okay.
That you,
The ones that Jeff said.
Yeah, okay.
the ones that you said, Jeff.
I'm in favor.
Okay, 3 of them.
Okay, transfer station. Flat,
Flat.
how'd you manage that?
Well, the real way we did it this year is ticket time to come in and get new stickers,
Oh, of course.
and we increased those. I think they increased them $45 from 20.
Oh, I just.
Whoa. Glad I'm not on that board anymore.
Well, this is the first time it's been publicly announced to South Thomaston. All the others have already announced it to their constituents. All of them are in favor of it.
The constituents.
The constituent, there was not a single person who said, oh, that ain't right, because they all want they want user fees, they want whoever's throwing away the trash to be paying for it, not the taxpayer. So there were a lot of kudos to them and thanks, and you're keeping this flat and increasing those fees, we're happy. Also increasing, although it's not it may be transparent to everybody else, but our haulers, the 5 haulers that pay a fee to go in there, there's enough. Yeah, not as much, not as drastically as this, but it did go up.
What's the final cost of the renovation in?
I don't have the final numbers rolled up because we still have some to pay and we're still negotiating
Right.
some of it that we think the engineering firm should be reimbursing, or not. We're not gonna pay them because they made mistakes.
Yeah, they certainly did. Relatively speaking, how the actuals come out to the budget? To the
Yeah.
plan from 5 years, 7 years?
Yeah, it was probably less than 10% overrun. Even with what the engineer had messed up. So
And what's the feedback on the
So-
renovation?
so far, everybody is happy with the way it is. We still have some paving to do, which was not part of the project. But there's still some paving to do and some signage we need. We got the same inspection the same day from the same person and had not had an inspection for years. And turns out that there's an annual report you have to do to DEP.
Yeah,
I knew that.
I knew that.
They hadn't done one in 10 years.
Oh, God.
I think ever since, what's his name?
I got that.
Pete,
Yes, Pete Lambert. Ever since he left, there haven't been any done. So.
thanks.
Jeff, will the $45 still be for 2 years?
It's 2 years, isn't it? I think, yeah, it'll still be for 2
Still
years.
be 2 years.
Yeah,
Today was the first day I'd been over there.
I know
What
it.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
yeah. And I think it turned out with lots of trials and tribulations. Because even though it wasn't that far over budget, it was way late
Oh,
in
yeah.
completion. I mean, over a year.
You know, the engineer and the contractor,
Yeah. And
we're not well served.
yeah, I was actually pretty pleased with how the contractor stepped up. I was not happy with the engineering firm at all, and they wouldn't, it took them, they're still arguing about what was their responsibility and whether it was the board's fault in the way they set it up, and they kept making changes to it, but we do have some pretty good legal language to get the money back from, so. Or not pay them.
And that, folks, is primarily due to him joining that board and uncovering all those malfeasances and driving. We should not be paying for this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there a motion to preliminarily approve the solid waste budget of 345,840? Did I get that right?
Yeah. So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Good education. We all know about the project.
I still don't know roll off fees are.
Not that the same, yeah.
I figure out about the internet.
I'll give you
Those are
it's,
The big metal.
If you're gonna do, if you're
yeah,
gonna
so
do some renovation again, I'll have a little.
the increase was
Yeah.
37 things.
Roll in.
No, that's when I first did when I did.
I'll do the reaction vote.
Vote, all in favor?
Can you let us know how much brush actually ends up being able to get all the way?
If you're that interested,
I could go and watch.
I'm gonna have to say about 20% of the pile, so you'll have to look at the pile first.
And I'll throw out one comment, just since you're on the budget committee and you care about all this. This is one of the biggest single ticket items that we put to the public. So it is the highest driver for our taxes other than schools. And every year it gets zero discussion and always passes as it is. I just think it's odd that
As long as any of us can remember.
yeah.
And the irony is 50 years ago, it was probably one of the lowest things, because you just threw it in the bin, threw a match on it.
Yeah.
Or they threw it off the grid.
Right.
Or they threw it off.
Penny,
Same budget. Just the 3% increase.
when are you gonna capitulate and take a bigger stipend?
You couldn't pay me enough, so pay me hourly.
We can't afford you, you're saying.
Well, we
Yeah,
can't-
then you have to give me benefits
That's-
too, so.
You could take a bigger stipend.
Has anyone ever offered it to us?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yes, we
Well,
have.
Penny,
It's not that very, we spend a lot of money. Out of petty cash, out of our donations, we are donated a lot of new books. Our actual budget is twice this easily in the year. As far as supplies and everything but, so the set, stipend. And programming, we pay for all our cleaning supplies and everything, so, well, Terry got us salt out of buildings and grounds this year, so, which since we got the salt, we haven't needed, but of course, but we're ready for next year. So, we're still hoping to get into the Minerva catalog program. They decided to revisit the whole program for small libraries, so we're still in line for that.
So that's why there's no spending there.
Right.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, they're going to figure it out for us. That's the van delivery and also gives the patron a chance to do this from home online. And then it goes into a van and gets delivered to us. Right now, we handle a couple hundred interlibrary loans per year, where the lending library pays shipping and then we pay shipping back. And that's about $5 a book now. The postal, even library rate. So that's pushing 1,000. So it's still cheaper to do it, but that means somebody, you got package, you got that packaging, you gotta take it to the post office and try to get around the sidewalks that have become such a problem there. And so, you know, it's looking more and more attractive to have this service. And that would be once a week van delivery. Which is the minimum a library can, any library can do is once a week. Rockland has 5 days a week,
Wow.
but you pay $60 or $75 for your card.
Right.
Are internet books like Audible?
It actually, Infonet is now Cloud Library and it's audio and ebooks. Library World is our circulation program that is for all of our physical books and audios and videos and whatnot, KPMs and everything we lend is in Library World and barcoded, so it's our automated system.
So if I went to, I asked the fellow and he really didn't understand my question. So if I went in and wanted, can I download a book?
If you have a card number, you can go to
I have
the
a card.
Cloud Library, which is the statewide system, and you can borrow ebooks or audiobooks. But that's not what we have in our physical collection. That's the virtual collection. That is a statewide consortium that we belong to.
All right. Thank you and all your volunteers. Is there a motion to preliminarily approve the library budget?
So,
Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
And I'll abstain.
Yes.
Started.
Shellfish. Is that also you, Penny?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Recreation.
It's still
Recreation, oh, like, yeah, let's do recreation, sorry. 1093. Thank you, Kate. Okay. No surprises, no big changes. Is there a motion to preliminarily approve the recreation budget of 16? Gotta do something about that blue, 1,600.
I use a different color next time.
So,
Is there a second? All in favor?
I would like to ask a question.
Sure, I'm sorry.
So for what we're gonna do to the one tennis court, that's not in here at all.
No, we should have sufficient money to do that. Between the donations and the reserve and the money we carry forward.
Okay.
So is that pickleball,
The
paint,
plan,
the basketball court?
the 16th rendition of the plan is to now pave the west court, which is the further one. As a matter of fact, I just saw Hager drive by here. So, cause he said
He paves.
he's gonna do it soon. And then we're gonna wait 20 days for it to off gas, and then we're gonna, well, first of all, we gotta take a section of the fence down so they can get the trucks and the paving machine onto the court. Pave the west section, wait 20 days, and then either hire someone or hopefully with volunteers, put down acrylic paint, 2 coats of that, which is that green or blue stuff that smooths it out and makes it good for pickleball and tennis and stuff. And then re-game line it for 1 tennis court and 2 pickleball courts on each side of the tennis net, buy a new tennis net. And put the fence back up. And then whatever money we have left would serve, if we have any money left, would serve as a start for perhaps applying for another grant to, and this is getting kind of down the road and maybe plans will change, but applying for another grant to basically dig up and recompact and repair the east court, which is in much worse shape than the west court.
I thought that was a dig it up and start over.
Well, yeah, the problem was is that got so expensive and it, you know, and it was gonna take so long. That the feeling is that if we pave the west court, with the exception of that 20-day period that we gotta wait, we can at least use that while we're trying to raise money and get another grant that takes, seems like 2 years to get to deal with the east court. So it's a bit of a gamble. It's probably the west court really only has 1 crack in it. And it's kind of near the net, which runs parallel to the net, which is a good place to have a crack if you're gonna have a crack. That'll probably come back at some point. That's the nature of those types of things, but hopefully we'll get enough years out of it to patch it again that'll work. That's the current plan.
There's no mulch for the playground this year. That was something the insurance company said keep doing every year. So you have a flip everywhere.
What do you mean, the mulch?
Mhm.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I thought we were gonna put something in there too. We can.
Yeah, I think we should.
Well, we didn't spend anything this year,
Yeah.
but if that,
Really?
well, it doesn't show it.
Okay.
And did we get a bill? Who'd you get mulch from?
Banner.
No.
I never got a bill from Benner for mulch.
Well,
He donated.
You know, I'll still check, but I mean, it would show up here.
Unless it's in the wrong place,
Well, there's always a possibility.
or maybe maybe he decided, didn't he say he was gonna bill you, but maybe he felt bad and decided not to.
I think Kyle is gonna,
Huh?
this Kyle's gonna take over the town.
No.
But yes, I would like to get 2 more loads this year.
How much would that be, Penny?
Well, it's 180 apiece last time.
36.
I just searched him as a vendor and there's nothing on the vendor fee service.
You'll probably get it next year.
Probably.
Okay.
Oh, did I pay it out of the,
Maybe,
I think that's.
you paid for it
I paid for it out of the,
out of donations.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and you said it could be in buildings and grounds. It could have, but no, I paid it,
You paid it, okay.
yeah.
So next year you want to have buildings and grounds?
Well, I mean, we can continue to do it out of,
It's in the recreation.
I think it's, yeah, too. I think it's less likely to get missed if it's in recreation.
Yeah. Okay, so can I have a preliminary recommendation motion of 1960 for recreation, which includes mulch for the playground? And then the budget, the select board can also vote on that.
So,
Second. All in favor? Thank you.
Do we agree?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to amend that by adding $360 to line 1112.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion, all in favor? Cool.
Wow, I mismanaged Betty and Sandra, and I'm gonna apologize for that. Now we're late.
Well, no, wait a minute. That was recreation we just did.
Yeah.
And what is this line 1112 come from?
it's the mulch for playground?
Mulch for playground.
I thought,
Page 49.
okay,
Right here.
that's recreational.
okay, so we don't have to say the line.
No, that was just my
That's what
motion.
confused me.
Make it clear.
We could do a reserve.
So recreation reserve, which is on page 53. And this is a build-up for tennis court Sunday.
Tennis court and
Well, it could be the skate park.
Skate park. Okay.
But in some ways, yes, I mean, I think it, hopefully. It'll begin to fund our match requirement if we do apply for a grant for the. East court at some point.
What was the $10,000 actual?
That was part of the paving of basketball court, right?
I don't know, I'm still trying to catch up. What was the question?
That we spent $10,000 so far through March out of the recreation reserve.
Yeah, that had to have been the basketball court,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
All right, is there a motion to
Or pot.
preliminarily recommend $20,000 to fund $5,000 to recommend the recreation reserve?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Once there's no discussion. Okay.
If I forget, is Hagar gonna do our walkway?
You say, but we're gonna have Jimmy dig it up. He said that'd be cheaper.
And that can all happen when it comes.
Well, he's coming to it at a different time, so I'll talk, I kind to be honest with you, I forgot about it. But
All right, George's River.
it's been so wet, I'm kind of.
and cemetery.
We can't find the tab. Here's the report from 55.
It's because it probably says cemetery on it.
It does say cemetery slash
Cemetery.
River.
There was a tab directly over the. Minus calculation on that.
Cemetery is straightforward, Penny?
Same as last year, there's some issue with Avenue 8, I don't know and put money in there or not for that.
Yeah, we haven't. We, I had Chip went down and looked at it today. I think what's happening is the people that live out back are driving through there instead of driving through Field Street, because Field Street's such a pothole mess. And now they've created that big hole there, because they're driving through that lane there, which was, of course, was never intended for that much traffic, you know, with those pickup trucks and wet there, but.
I don't have art to do some sawhorses.
Yeah, but it does, I mean, at first I was thinking that it was Calyx's fault, but now I agree with him. I don't think it is. I think it's those guys that live out back there have been driving through there. So
Well, we did have a bit of a sinkhole there.
it was, but it's always been wet. But Chip was gonna look at it and he thinks that we probably in the long term need some sort of ditch to drain that water out of that low spot going towards the ditch, towards Field Street. But he was gonna think about it, but we don't have any money for it, but we, I suppose we could take it out of the cemetery reserve if we, when we come up with a number. If we have any money left in there, if we do, right?
We do.
I think we talked about it, I thought the plan was to do it this year anyway.
Well, we didn't budget anything for it.
Yeah, I know. But to do it before June,
To do what?
so that's why it's not in this budget. We did have a discussion about whether or not we were gonna.
Yeah, but we don't have any money left, do we?
6th Avenue 8, you know?
We did the avenue, right? We talking about two different things?
What did you mean, Jeff, we're gonna do before June?
The work on the avenue, if it needed to be done, it would be done this year, not budget year.
Cause we budgeted 5,600, we've only spent 45.
Yeah.
That's for
It's for
that's for
the
the,
conservator,
yeah.
I
but
know, my line's going crooked here.
But is there $1,500 there that's not gonna be spent?
yeah, he's,
No, not 1,100.
right. Yeah, he
So could we,
was able to
could we
do
use, I
high
mean, that should more than cover.
Yeah.
We could use that. Now, the only other issue is it's so damn wet, are they gonna be able to get in there before July 1st?
23 days.
Yeah,
yeah,
we can probably, yeah, that probably will work. This is getting too complicated.
You lost me. No, totally.
So is everything the same for us that we're looking at?
I think so. And this does include the increase in the mowing.
Yes.
Okay. And the shellfish, that's the $3,000 for us to belong,
Mhm.
right? We have more than 2 flowers.
It's
Yeah,
6.
Pardon? 6?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow,
They hold their
Right.
licenses even if they don't use
Right.
them.
yeah.
I think we just have one move into South Thomaston as well.
Okay, is there a motion to preliminarily approve the shellfish vets and cemetery budget at 29,968?
So moved.
For a second? Second. All in favor?
I just had a question about mowing, like that's some point.
oh, we got the mowing?
And I'll abstain
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. Pose a question.
So the department had suggested 10 and you guys suggest 18.
Same reason we had the mowing issue on one of the other lines, but
Because there's no overseer pay.
the mower that we had contracted back then.
I'm abstaining because.
And we rebid it, got 2 bids, took the lowest bid, and it's still significantly.
That 18 isn't the right number.
No, it isn't.
No,
I didn't think
it's
so.
it
We gotta,
should be 22.5.
yeah,
Oh.
I didn't think we had adjusted that.
That's what I asked. That's what I asked. 22.5?
Yeah.
But his explanation's correct.
Yeah, right.
Just the numbers wrong. And again, I think we were lucky to get a bid.
Yeah.
Does that still belong to the?
That's it on the spreadsheet.
No.
No,
So it's the after.
we're just up to.
Right, for
$4,000.
principal.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't recall us making that adjustment as a select board, that's why I.
Yeah, so that makes the total budget 34,468.
Can you say that again?
34,468.
Thank you.
All right,
I don't know.
so shall we revisit our motion and
Yeah.
instead recommend 34,468?
So moved.
Give me a second. All in favor? All right, cemetery reserve, now I lost my place.
So should we make a motion?
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we amend our recommendation to, sorry, Terry.
22,500
I'll talk to, no,
for
that,
mowing.
no, total, I meant.
Oh, total.
You haven't even approved it anyway, so.
Huh?
You haven't even approved the budget.
34,468.
Yeah, 34.
34,468. Well, yeah, so you remember to change it.
I already changed it in the computer.
Moved and seconded.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cemetery reserve 1169, is there a motion to preliminarily approve funding of $1,000?
So moved.
For second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Linda, oh, but she went through, and,
We're mumbling.
Yes.
From somebody.
Debt service 1129.
We're flying them out.
Yeah.
Great. Wow. Oh, okay, so David put the 75,813 in and you guys said the timing is wrong, is that what happened?
No, originally I thought the loan would be falling. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And then it's not gonna
Gonna hit.
happen quite like we
Right,
thought.
okay. So a motion to approve debt service of 32,661.
so moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Get the recommend debt service. It's like.
You don't pay it, the judge is gonna order you.
Right.
Yeah. Plus you'll never borrow a dime again.
All right, social services, 1025. It's 1,500.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to preliminarily approve $1,500 in social services? There's a second. All in favor? We didn't get to anything from Monday because of me. I apologize again. I should have hammered Betty or Sandra as much as I did. But
You've learned after all these years.
$20,000 was really easy. Now I understand. I voted.
I'm in Boston on Monday. Are we gonna have people?
Well, the pay.
Will we have a forum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a form?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You running?
No. No, Scott has surgery.
All right.
Oh, really?
In Boston.
No, any vacation. I'm going to catch my grandson's latest cold.
Good luck with that.
Without objection, I'm going to adjourn this committee
Okay.
with apologies for being late.
Oh, it is late.
Revisit.
Not that.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
2 hours for a budget.
Now.
We're the doctor.